So it looks like the bear at the bear cave decided to bark up the wrong tree today. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is John and this is John Paul Investing. So coincidentally, they decided to post this this bear report on Nano Dimension on April Fool's Day. I don't think that was their intention to put it on April Fool's Day, but it just so happens to be that of all days they're going to post an article like this, they're going to post one for Nano Dimension on April Fool's Day. So I wanted to look at this report with you guys and kind of dissect some of the information in it. It's not very long, but there's a few claims in there that I think that we would be able to address. Essentially, the whole point I bought this article for you guys is so I could tear down the short claims against Nano Dimension. When you're an investor in a company and you get articles like this one, you want to be able to address as many of the short claims against the business as possible, because if they bring up some pretty substantial claims, you want to be able to, answer those questions and say, hey, I understand you have this understanding, but here are the facts. And even if they're not, solid facts, at least you have maybe some numbers or things that could back you up. But at least if you have more positives than negatives and the positives outweigh the negatives, then you can still hold your position with confidence. So today is going to be a great example using Nano Dimension, and I am pretty excited to share it with you guys. Now remember that press and news do not always affect stock price, but whenever it does, the more negative press they get, the bigger the chances are that you can get the underlying stock at a juicier discount and not really pay such a premium on it, because the general market is looking at it with a negative scope. And this is where your stock analysis is going to come into play, because this is how you can really decide, do I have an edge against the people who are bears against this company? So this is the bear cave. They have a few articles here, but today we're going to be focusing on the problems at Nano Dimension. Nano Dimension, an Israeli 3D printing company, has risen over 1,000% on optimism that its Dragonfly printer can be used to make electronic circuit boards. Nano Dimension's current CEO has previously been accused but never convicted of an extortion attempt, and the company's former chairman was arrested on charges of money laundering, aggravated fraud, and securities violations. Nano Dimension's history includes consistent unprofitability, serious dilution, an over-the-counter to NASDAQ uplisting, a 50-for-1 reverse split, and 253 press releases. Nano Dimension lacks the economic substance of many other multi-billion-dollar companies. Its revenue in 2020 totaled $3.4 million, less than half of its $7.1 million in revenue during 2019. In its 10-K for the year ended 2020, Nano Dimension disclosed having 87 full-time employees, down from the 91 people employed in 2018. Over the last 5 years, the company has spent approximately $42 million in research and development and earned $17 in total revenue. Nonetheless, the company touts deals with defense contractors and sells investors on the potential of its 3D printers. So hopefully while I was reading these two paragraphs, you were already thinking of things that were wrong with these two paragraphs, and that you're immediately able to come up with some kind of rebuttals against all of these claims. So the CEO had an extortion attempt, which we can click here. It is linked to this this article, which I believe is the same one that I had pulled up. It is literally the same article that I Googled. So this is an article from 2010. Nathan Kirsch accuses former Magal executive of extortion attempt. Attorney Avigdor Klagsbad wrote a letter earlier this week on behalf of Nathan Kirsch, who is Magal's largest shareholder, accusing Yoav Stern of attempted extortion. According to his letter, Stern asked Kirsch, who owns a 24% stake in Magal, to abstain from the shareholder vote in what Stern's letter reportedly termed an elegant solution before things get too dirty. Stern's letter also allegedly stated that although Kirsch's chances of prevailing in the shareholder vote were slim, if he was successful, there would be a great deal of dirt uncovered. These statements constituted extortion, Klagsbald wrote. 3 American investment funds, Deeker Management, Clough Capital Partners, and Prescott Group Capital Management, are attempting to take over of Magal. The 3 together currently hold about 18% of Magal. They are facing off against the company's current board of directors headed by Jacob Perry, as well as CEO Eaton Livney, backed by Kirsch. In response to the controversy, the 3 U.S. funds stated that the accusations are a pathetic attempt to stitch together a selection of sentences taken out of context from straightforward business correspondence between Kirsch and Stern, in which Stern was responding to Kirsch's attempts to convince him to withdraw the proposed replacement of the board of directors. It's no coincidence that Yoav Stern's name is Yoav Stern and not Yoav Soft. We've already seen plenty of interviews with Yoav Stern where he's very straightforward and to the point with what he says about the business. Because they're a smaller growth stock and they are labeled as such, they have the ability to not have to disclose everything about the business. And if he can do so, he's going to make sure that he can keep everything as secret as possible. So he's in no obligation to share all of the details with public investors. But considering the results from Nano Dimension and the fact that they were able to raise $1.5 billion should say something with the new leadership at Nano Dimension. When Yoav Stern wants to get something done, he gets it done. That is what we want in a CEO. If they want to misconstrue what he was saying, then that's something entirely different. He was not charged of any crimes for this, so this is not something that can hold basis for, judging his character or anything like that. Anyways, let's move on. Unprofitability, because they are growing their business still, so they're not trying to become profitable. Their margins have actually increased on the gross margin side, increasing their gross profit margins. Serious dilution, again, it's not really dilution. They're just giving some stake to big investors who are willing to not speculate with their business. 50-for-1 reverse split. There were simply too many shares outstanding for the size of the business, so maybe later we will get some more splits, but right now it is essentially where it needs to be. And the 253 press releases, just because they have hundreds of press releases over, the past few years, why is that a bad thing? If they're able to share substance with their investors as and when they choose, then why would they not do so? Again, they don't have to share every detail, but they can still share some of the juicy stuff that would entice investors to invest in their business. The revenues in 2020 totaled 3.4 million. We already know what happened last year in 2020. There was a global crisis. So it is not surprising that they're, producing less than when there wasn't a global crisis. It is fair to say that it was less than half, but it is not fair to say that it was less than half, but not mention that it was during a global crisis. In its 10K for the year ended, they had less employees because of a global crisis, down from 91 people employed in 2018 when there was not a global crisis. Over the last 5 years, the company has spent approximately $42 million in research and development and earned $17 million in total revenue. And this is because they are not focused on marketing their business as they have told us. They are focusing on developing their product to make it more usable across a variety of industries with more prominent materials that could be used for all kinds of applications. Commercial, industrial, military spec, the whole 9 yards is what they're aiming for. They are not trying to make a few bucks right this second. Now, I won't say it's not necessary at all to have some sales, but it's not their main focus right now. Sales will keep them afloat, but the R&D is really what's going to, scale the business. The alpha for Nano Dimension is in the technology, in the printers, in the inks. Shares outstanding have gone from around 1 million in 2017 to over 80 million in December 2020. In addition to issuing 253 press releases, the company often receives glowing coverage from the Motley Fool, The Street, Wall Street Bets subreddit, and 5 recent articles from InvestorPlace.com. I'm going to pause here. I will add that I feel like the whole point of this article to even be published in the first place is just because they know Nano Dimension is starting to gain traction and people are worried and they want to tug on your emotions. What better way to do it against Nano Dimension shareholders than by releasing a bear report or short seller report? There are ulterior motives to this article, so take everything in this article with a grain of salt. One prominent investor backing Nano Dimension is Cathie Wood, whose firm owns roughly $100 million stake in the company. When asked about Nano Dimension recently, Ms. Wood said, "We are very impressed by the new management. That new management is being led by Yoav Stern, who took over as CEO in January 2020. Yoav Stern previously served as the interim CEO of Magal Security Systems from February 2009 to July 2009, so this is around 5 months. Magal Security Systems later wrote that during this term in office, the employees operated in a hostile environment and were terrified by his managerial style. It's no coincidence that Yoav Stern's name is Yoav Stern and not Yoav Soft. Suppliers were insulted and the relationships of the company with its business partners were harmed as a result of his arrogant and erratic behavior. In addition, Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper, reported allegations that Mr. Stern made an extortion attempt to influence the voting of Magal's largest shareholder during a proxy fight. Mr. Stern's previous work at Magal is not disclosed on his LinkedIn or in Nano Dimension's annual report. Before Magal, Mr. Stern was chairman of Kellstrom Industries, which went bankrupt, and was co-chairman of Bogan Communications International, which has seen its stock decline 90% over the last 10 years. Now, regarding these claims, let's go back to the fact that Yoav Stern's last name really speaks testament to his character, Yoav Stern, and not Yoav Soft. And I think it is a very good thing for the business. Now, the second part is, in a business, there's two parts. You have the founder, or the person who's running the company, the CEO, and then you have the actual product or service, the actual underlying business attached to them. So if you have a subpar product or service, and you have even the most excellent of CEOs, if your product or service is crap, then it's not really going to scale or possibly be profitable for a long period of time. How do we know Bogan Communications International was just a bogus communications company to begin with before Yoav Stern joined? How do we know Kellstrom Industries wasn't on the decline before Yoav Stern joined them as well? Chances are that both of these companies were already on the decline, and they sought Yoav Stern as kind of their safety net, their angel, and just because he wasn't able to deliver doesn't necessarily mean it was his fault that the business dissolved in the first place. Nano Dimension's Chief Operating Officer Zvi Peled previously served on the board of Blue Phoenix Solutions, which fell 80% during its tenure as a public company. Yaron Eaton, a Nano Dimension Audit Committee board member, was previously CEO of the Vector Intersect Security Acquisition SPAC that merged with a company that went to zero. Roni Kleinfield, another Nano Dimension Audit Committee board member, was previously on the board of Safety Group, which fell 99%, and Elbit Imaging, which also fell 99%. In the last 2 years, 4 board members have resigned from Nano Dimension. His replacement, Chairman Ophir Baharov, resigned on March 10th of this year. Mr. Abraham Namies and Mr. Irit Ben Ami both resigned from the board in January 2020. Itzhak Shrem served as chairman at Nano Dimension from April 24 until his arrest in May 2018 on charges of money laundering, aggravated fraud, and securities violations. Mr. Shrem's involvement in the public markets goes well beyond his chairmanship of Nano Dimension. Shrem was previously chairman of Citron Global, which fell 99%, and was a major shareholder of other companies that also fell 90+%. One of Nano Dimension's early investors was Alpha Capital and Stalt, a Liechtenstein-based hedge fund that was previously mentioned in a 2018 SEC complaint involving stock promoter Barry Honig. In November 2020, CVI Investments, a Cayman Island-based firm, disclosed a 5 million share stake in Nano Dimension. By February 21st, CVI had sold its entire stake. CVI has been involved in many companies that were promoted and later fell 90+%. At Nano Dimension's current valuation of roughly 600 times sales, investors are paying a premium for potential growth. It's not clear if Nano Dimension will deliver. On its Q4 earnings call this March, CEO Yoav Stern was asked directly about 2021 revenue guidance. His answer was not encouraging. So this is between the unknown attendee and Yoav Stern. Okay, could you provide some guidance towards first quarter 2021 financials and that they're almost done? Yoav Stern replied, no. No guidance? No. Any guidance for 2021 in terms of revenue appreciation? No. Okay. Any growing interest, contract signed in 3D printing of 5G antennas? Have you been working with any major automotive companies? Yes, we are working with major players in that field, and when there will be anything to announce, we'll announce it. We had contracts with them and worked with them before, and when there will be something to announce, it will be announced. Instead of providing guidance, CEO Yoav Stern told investors about the huge potential markets for Nano Dimension. Our business is to use the money according to our business plan, and we are doing it. Nano Dimension is going to change the industry that is 70 years old, non-environmental friendly, very, very non-efficient, and with serious issues of the supply chain. It is called the PCB industry, or the high end of it, which is about $30 billion in size. To achieve that potential, Nano Dimension has told investors that it plans to do multiple acquisitions this year. The company's $1.5 billion in cash comes from the numerous share issuances. Mr. Stern ended the earnings call saying, "And I promise you that we mean every word we say, and we say everything we mean, and it will stay this way." Now remember, this article is not investment advice and represents the opinions of its author, Edwin Dorsey. Anything I feel like I have an answer for, I'll be able to answer right now, and anything after the fact, I would have to address in a later video or possibly even a live stream. Now, as far as all of the companies they have been associated with that have fell, Yaron Eaton with the SPAC that went to zero, this is exactly why I'm saying right now SPACs are kind of wishy-washy, and I would probably stay away from SPACs, generally speaking. But in the case of Nano Dimension is not a SPAC. They have been around for at least 7 to 8 years already. This is not a brand new business, and they have a track record for improving their products. In the case of Itzhak Shrem, we already know that Nano Dimension basically tried to bury him under the rug. As a publicly traded company, you would not want anything to do with someone you don't want to be associated with a person who has been charged of money laundering, aggravated fraud, and securities violations in any way, shape, or form as a public company. So that's what they did. They buried him under the rug. That's why you can't find too much on it, but that's because they want nothing to do with him. They did the right thing. He got arrested and they got rid of him. Itzhak Shrem is not Nano Dimension. Now, one thing I did not know was that CVI did sell their investment in Nano Dimension. Now, just because they sold their entire stake in Nano Dimension, it does not mean that they are not going to repurchase these shares at a later date with more substance from the company. Again, in the past, I have said myself that if you're going to sell a stock, it's because you found another opportunity. So it is likely in the case of CVI Investments, with their analysis and the way they conduct research, that they believe that they found a better investment opportunity than Nano Dimension. So it is not surprising that they sell their position in Nano Dimension to find something else. But again, guys, that is where the difference in research and difference of understanding in a business can become an edge for either side of the trade, either long or short. Now, assuming its current valuation of 600 times sales, we know Nano Dimension, just roughly rounding off the numbers, they have around $1.5 billion on the balance sheet with around 250 million shares outstanding. So that means for every $250 million cash they have, it is $1 in stock price. So with $1.5 billion on the balance sheet and no debt, this means that Nano Dimension should be worth, at minimum, in simply and only cash position, $6 per share. And right now, Nano Dimension is trading at $8.33 per share, which means that we are paying around a $2.34 premium for the business itself. So we can get 250 million and multiply that by $2.34, and we will get a valuation of around $585 million. So just to make numbers a little bit fair too for Nano Dimension, I was going to get their 7 and 3 million figure and add them together, and we get around $11 million. So if we get $585 million for the business valuation and divide that by $11 million in revenue, we have an adjusted price to sales ratio of 53, not 600. So that means this article is off on the price to sales ratio of Nano Dimension by a factor of 10. Do you think Nano Dimension over the next few years can grow 53% per year? I think it is very possible over the next 4 to 5 years. Go ahead and check out the link in the description to the Patreon group if you want to know exactly when I'm buying and selling particular stocks that we talk about here on this channel. There are a few spots available open right now, so if this is something you're interested in, I highly recommend you check out the open spots while they're still open. And don't forget your 2 free stocks from WeBull using the other link in the description. All you have to do is open an account with them and deposit $100, and you will get your 2 free stocks, which you can then sell and do whatever you want with that money. It is also another way besides the Patreon group to support the channel. But anyways, guys, that is it for this video. Just wanted to cover this bear report with you guys. If you liked watching, make sure you hit that like button. And while you're down there, go ahead and hit that big red subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the bell notification to get notified when I make videos just like this one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.